We start with Proposition 138, the Tipped Workers Protection Act. It's one of several measures referred to the ballot by the Republican-controlled legislature. A yes vote on Prop 138 would give Arizona businesses that employ workers who earn tips a constitutional right to pay those workers 25% below the state's minimum wage. Under current law, businesses can pay tip workers up to $3 below minimum wage. If the ballot measure is approved, the hourly minimum wage for tip workers would fall by about 60 cents an hour, about 6%, from $11.35 to $10.76 an hour. Workers could keep more of their tipped income. Joining us to discuss Prop 138 are Steve Chucri, Chief Executive Officer of the Arizona Restaurant Association, which supports the measure, and Raquel Teran, former state lawmaker and candidate for Congress, representing the Will of the People PAC, which opposes the measure. Welcome back to Square Off.
Thank you.
Let's set the ground rules for this debate. It's more of a conversation than a debate. No opening or closing statements. I am not timing your answers. We do have a no filibuster rule. I ask you just to be respectful of the other person on the desk and let each of you have your say. My job is to be the referee to make sure you guys each have a say. So let's start. The measure is titled the Tipped Worker Protection Act. Question for both of you, starting with you, Steve. How would it protect workers who earn tips?
Well, one key component, Bram, that you left out of your intro was that we're guaranteeing that the tipped workers will make $2 more than the minimum wage, which is different than what we have in the current apparatus of the tipped wage itself. So for us, we look at this in two ways. One, that 90% of tipped workers support the current tipping structure that we have here in Arizona. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to continue to foster that, continue to protect that, but also guarantee that they're going to make more than they currently are now.
Well, thank you for starting with the title, because I think the title is a bit deceptive. To be honest, I think it should have been the Tip Worker Reduction Act, because, I mean, workers at the end of the day will be earning less. And I disagree. There's nothing in this proposition that says that there is a guarantee that the worker will earn $2 an hour more than the minimum wage. At the end of the day, it will be the consumer who is subsidizing, per se, for the worker to get to the minimum wage, but there's nothing in this proposition that says that there's a guarantee of $2 above the minimum wage for the worker.
And there is a guarantee. The fact is, it spells it out that they will make $2 more than the minimum wage. There is no subsidy whatsoever associated with this. People that come into our restaurants every single day here in Arizona are not considering their tip a subsidy. They're considering that tip to say, we received excellent service, a wonderful meal, in a tremendous environment. And that's what we're about. We're the hospitality industry. We're not the hostility industry. And so our tipped workers want this. Our tipped workers are saying, hey, thank you, but no thank you to outside interests coming in and disrupting this. And that's why Prop 138 exists, Bram. It's in direct response to outside interests trying to bring California-style wages to Arizona. I'm not asking my ophthalmologist to perform heart surgery. No one asked for them to come in and say, we're going to negotiate on your behalf as a tipped worker to make more money. And when 90% of tipped workers want this current system, they want what's in Prop 138, why should we be against it? In fact, 87% of tipped workers have found and are opposed to eliminating the tip credit, which is what One Fair Wage wanted to do with their failed ballot initiative, because they know it leads to surcharges, Bram.
And I just want to respond to that, because I think that the workers have said they want, first they need, they deserve, and they want a full minimum wage with tips on top. This is not about eliminating tips. This is about the worker receiving a full minimum wage. That's the advocacy that workers have been talking about. The initiative was actually led by workers, and yes, there were the people that were collecting the signatures, and the vast majority were people who worked as tip workers. So that says there was a strong demand for full minimum wage with tips on top.
There are advertisements out there, Brand, that show they were trying to get anyone to collect signatures. It's been posted time and time again as to how much they were willing to pay people. They weren't tipped workers. I've had the pleasure of leading this industry for 23 years. We employ 330,000 people in the state of Arizona. Our daily payroll is $21 million without tips. We are a heavily compensated industry, number one. Number two, we are a $23 billion economy in Arizona. Those numbers just don't fall off a tree. They are actual numbers that promote and preserve our industry and make it so successful today.
Let's go back to that $2 add-on. Where is that coming from?
That has to come from the restaurateur. That has to come from the restaurateur. If someone is not making the minimum wage with tips, $2 more than the minimum wage with tips, that comes from the restaurateur. And
out of tips?
Yes.
Yes,
So
tips.
it's not going to come from the employer. It's not.
It will come from the employer if they don't have it, if they aren't making it with tips.
Where does it say that in the proposition?
We've hired attorney after attorney, Raquel, to look at that, and I appreciate your point. I'm not trying to be difficult. I appreciate your point. But every attorney we've talked to has said that it does. It's in there. The Industrial Commission oversees that. You've got federal authorities that oversee that from a regulatory standpoint. There's all types of things you can do to ensure that those restaurateurs are doing it.
The only thing that's going to be in the Constitution, because this is going to be a constitutional amendment, which is frightening. It's really, really hard to change.
Hard to change is an important point.
Very difficult to change. The only thing that's there is that the sub-minimum wage will be 25% less than the full minimum wage. So to me, it's just wild that as minimum wage will continue to go up because of inflation, the wage gap between the sub-minimum wage and the full minimum wage will continue to increase. And that, at the end of the day, impacts working families. And we know that this industry has a vast majority of women, of 30% people of color. And so these folks are definitely will be impacted by getting paid less.
So I pointed out at the top that if this passes, the minimum wage would decrease by about 60 cents an hour.
60 cents an hour. It depends on what you're looking at. We're looking at it as they're getting $2 more per hour. And you can't look at it in isolation. You have to look at it that if they eliminated the tip credit, which, by the way, in 2006, when the same group or the same unions were pushing a new minimum wage here in Arizona, they allowed for the $3 tip credit, and rightfully so. But it's becoming outdated. We're talking about almost 20 years of an outdated policy. And so all of that being said, Bram, the alternative and why we're saying they're going to get paid more is go to the District of Columbia, go to other places where the tip credit has been eliminated, and what you're going to find is restaurants have closed, employees have been laid off, and that they've turned to surcharges. You cannot, as a restaurant, make up for $180,000 to $250,000 added cost by eliminating the tip credit. It's got to go somewhere.
It's contrary. There are 7 states. And there are some blue states, some purple states, some red states. And what they've seen is growth in growth in the restaurant industry. The workers are seeing less harassment. And the other thing is that the tips have actually increased. And we all know that the best tippers are actually people who work in the tipping industry because they're generous and they know what it means to be a tip worker.
That 60 cents an hour reduction in the wages paid, direct wages paid to tip workers, how much will that bring in for the restaurant industry?
We don't look at it that way, and I don't.
Well, you must know how much.
Well, I can tell you what eliminating the tip credit would cost a restaurant, right? We put it right back in. If the restaurant industry didn't care about its employees, why do we have employees at some of Arizona's most popular restaurants that have been there for more than 20 years or 30 years? We're the industry of opportunity. If you want that single mom or single dad to drop their kid off in the morning, go work a shift, and come and pick their kid up after school, that's what we are. And there's no hue and cry as being suggested here by the tipped workers about we want this changed. It's quite the opposite.
So, but again, you're saying you don't know how much the restaurant industry would benefit from a lower.
It depends on the number.
Paying 60 cents less an hour.
It depends on the number of hours tipped workers. It's not that easy.
But there is a significant benefit to the industry.
There's a math out there, and it hasn't been verified, and I don't like to talk about numbers without knowing the facts. But the number that is being circulated right now is that about $76 million would benefit the restaurant industry, and that's a loss for the worker at the end of the day.
It's not a loss for the worker because we're growing restaurants. And you talk about some of these states. You can go 2 weeks ago, 6 Shake Shacks closed in California because of wage issues. Shake Shack. Everyone knows Shake Shack. So it doesn't matter what segment of the industry. These failed policies in these other states have failed, especially in California. We're not going to do that in Arizona. We believe the voters are going to be smart enough to want to support their favorite tipped worker and support Prop 138.
Voters are going to be, I agree, voters are going to be smart enough
15 seconds, please. Got to end
say no to this proposition and make sure that we're protecting the little that these tip workers have. And that's why I'm here today, to make sure that we have a voice for this working class.
And when this passes, lunch is on me for the three of us.
All right, Steve. Steve Chucri, Raquel Teran, thanks very much for joining us.